Each time a woman stands for herself, without knowing it, possibly without claiming it, she stands for all women, says Maya Angelou. Join us this Women's Month as we bring you a special feature, #ThePowerOfShe, where we will be in conversation with some of South Africa's most phenomenal women from all walks of life. In collaboration with the British High Commission, each week we will bring you a range of important conversations that speak directly to women in South Africa and beyond. From how to be a successful female entrepreneur against all odds, to survival through artistic expression. Catch it all here on Woman Radio this August. It's #ThePowerOfShe. Women, own your power. Right here on Woman Radio. Well-organized men, for we are. She's a Harvard Business School alumni. She has obtained a business leadership qualification with a general management program in 2016. She holds a master's degree in development studies obtained in 2005, a bachelor's honors degree in social transformation, a bachelor's degree in sociology and industrial psychology. She's a very strong believer in gender equality, women empowerment, and climate justice, with a focus of a broad-based just transition. She's passionate about making an impact in people's lives through her work. Sazini sits on several boards, and I can tell you that she is just one of those amazing women. And I'm sure she's saying to all of us, it's okay, black girl, you are not alone. Look at me. I've done it against all odds, and you can do it. Now, these are the people you have to align yourself with if you want to go far. It's good that these people are here with us. We can feel them. We can touch them. We know about them. They are not far-fetched. And so if you need to know how she's done it, she's right here to tell you how she has done it. Good morning and welcome, Sazini, to Women Radio.
Good morning, Yvonne, and good morning to your listeners.
I've told our people what you've achieved. I want you to tell me, who is Sazini?
Who is Sazini? I'm a mother of 3. I think that's my most proud
Welcome to the club.
And you know that's something you can't have a KPI for.
Absolutely.
You can't actually put it in a scorecard and say, I'm going to do this. It's really God bringing life through you. So I'm very proud. I never thought I'd have children, but having 3
was a bonus.
was like, oh my gosh, they need to pay more cows.
I was just about to say, they need to pay more cows for this woman who is smart, who gave them 3 children and still works for the society.
And yes, and still, I can say, and still fulfills purpose, and still chases after making a difference. So if I am to say who I am, I'll tell you why I do what I do. I started, I was walking one day with my mom. My mom had me when she was 17. And unfortunately, she's passed on now.
May her soul rest in
peace.
And
I asked myself the question, we're going to catch a bus going to school. Why are others in cars and driving and living in big houses and we're not? And who's making those decisions? I think I was around 14, 15 when those questions troubled me. And I started asking myself, who makes the decision? How does this happen? Why is my mom in this position and why is she struggling? Because she literally lived for me. And I wanted to make a difference. And I tell you today, if you look at my journey, it has been an ode to my mom. It's women's empowerment. It will always have women in it and young people and youth. So it has been women in empowerment, young people. And in everything I've studied, it's the quest to make a difference, whether it's at a grassroots level, whether it's in government, or even in corporate. How do they spend the money and why do they spend it the way they do? So from studying to my career profile, it's underpinned by the same thing, women and youth.
Wow, I just got some goose flesh, and I'm holding all the tears back because what I find constantly when I talk to the women that I talk to, women who inspire me, women who do so much without very little expectation, there's a story behind it. Does your name mean something?
Oh,
What
it
does it
does.
mean?
You can hear the name. It's a Zulu name.
Okay.
Sazini.
Sazini, what do
What
we
do we
know?
know?
Is that
Exactly.
it?
She was 17.
Sazin.
Yeah. And
Sazin.
then this very light-colored looking baby was born in a black family and to this little girl. And apparently my great-grandmother said, Sazini. And they wrote it down.
Wow.
Who does that?
I can't believe, I'm getting goose flesh because, I get very fascinated by names because sometimes we constantly ask ourselves, what is in it?
And I think names are powerful.
They are.
So when I named my own children, I was very deliberate in looking at their names and saying names are prophetic.
Absolutely.
My mom's name was Kumbulani.
Oh, wow.
You will remember.
Yeah,
And
Kumblani.
yes.
Right.
And I meet her friends today and they say, are you Kumbu's daughter? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, you look exactly like her. And I can't remember. I can't remember. I've got the pictures when she passed when she was 36.
Oh, wow. Oh, she
And
was young.
she was very young. She was hit by a car. So I have vague memory. And I think, would she look like this at 44? Because I passed that age, right? She never got to see it. And I'm like, do I really look like her? And I'm like, yeah, Liza Kumbulani.
Wow. Now, fast forward, you've worked in different organizations and your current job now. Can you please explain to us, because I don't want to be forward. I want you to explain to us your current job. What does it entail? And you've already said you wanted to empower women and girls because you know where you're coming from. So if you have to explain to our listeners your current job, what does it entail?
Well, currently, it's looking at how to end the worst form of discrimination and violence on women. In my previous roles, I've looked at women's economic empowerment. But in this one, I am looking at the sanctity of women and keeping them. You have to be safe first. I'm looking at the safety and security of women and girls, saying we want to walk free without fear. And
any favors, really?
I know, but it's my current job is not even about favors. It's my right to walk free.
Well, unfortunately, in this country, it's like when you walk as a girl or as a woman, somebody's doing you a favor.
Can you
Because
believe
you
that?
always have to look over your shoulder. Who's coming behind me? Even when you are in a car, you are scared. The worst part of it, you are scared at home. With the doors locked.
That's what I'm trying to fight and change. The safety, the security, the peace of mind. My trigger point, before I joined this, I took on this role, I was at a bank, the Red Bank, and I was heading up their corporate citizenship. And I remember, I think it was a standstill moment for all of us, when a young girl at UCT went to the post office. I could not.
Yeah.
I could not sleep.
Yeah.
And I said, no, what can I do? And I think all of us realized, no.
This should come to an end.
No, we can't.
And I think, these are just few incidents that get to people. These are few incidents that are sort of exposed. There's lots of people who die and we don't even know.
Absolutely.
You find there's a body that was found in a drain somewhere, and these don't even get reported.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, what is GBVF?
So, the Gender Based Violence and Femicide Response Fund
Yes.
was launched by the President in 2021, and it was really a response to the total shutdown that happened in 2018, 2019, where women took to the streets and said enough is enough. We cannot be dying in the hands of men. The country really needs to stop and evaluate itself. And private sector looked at this challenge, and one of the things that was evident in its contribution was to set up a fund, pool resources together so that we can enable the very women's movement and those who are running organizations that are experiencing or supporting survivors of gender-based violence and families that are affected by femicide, community-based organizations that lack resources, and we can then fund them. So and on the day of its launch, it was actually able to get over 150 million worth of pledges from private sector and global
ordinary
development
people
organizations,
as well.
ordinary people.
I put in some money.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
I did.
Thank you for
because it was a virtual function. I know
Yes.
other people were there, and we contributed. And I want to say thank you to Irene Shanley as well
Absolutely.
from IWF. And all those women, just ordinary women, putting 1,000 rands, 5,000 rands, 10,000 rands, and those organizations. But Sazini, my question is, did it have to take women to march to the streets to say to the herd of the country and to everybody, this is it?
When you've tried all avenues and they have failed, the one that's left is the protest.
Yeah, precisely.
And I think it's apt that we're having the conversation now, because yesterday, 20,000 women, how many years ago, held the same march for their rights.
And we are still there.
Doing the same. The government has changed.
Yeah.
The regime of the day is different. The method is still the same. The approach is still the same. So it certainly speaks to a more structural issue in our society. And in the work that we do, we've taken a step back and said, why do we see violence against women at unprecedented levels in South Africa, where it starts from a baby all the way up to a grandmother?
Yeah.
Where is the Ubuntu values that we espouse? We've lost them.
Absolutely.
But we also have to ask ourselves, what are the scars we bear as a country? What makes men have an extended level of violence when it comes to patriarchy?
Have we found out what is that? When we have these conferences and when we do much, I know there are a couple of men who would say, not in my name. Have we actually sat down and spoken to men, or men who've been found to have killed women and taken to correctional services? Have we spoken to them to ask them, what is the gist of what is happening and why is it happening? Have we ever done that?
As the fund, we have. One of the things that we were very intentional about is to tease out organizations that are looking at the boy child and are being run by men. And some of those organizations, for example, we funded the Empower Men Conference, where men come together and they speak openly about the issues that they face, but more importantly, the perpetrators in the room, and call them to order. We do see it as a key part of the prevention strategy.
Have you seen any change, though?
I think you cannot see change now. I think it's the long game. For us to turn the tide is the long game. We have started paying more attention to the boy child, so it's not intergenerational, but trying to also have conversations with men. Quite recently, the Good Men Foundation had a march in KZN with the King, and we want more men in leadership positions to speak up against it. But we also want to have more ministers who are saying, not in my name, and not standing on the sidelines.
But we wait for people to march, we wait for people to protest, we wait for women to die.
And I think for me, It's a portfolio approach where people believe it's not part of their business. But what we want to do, and what I think is important with this particular issue, you're a mother, you're a brother, you're a father. It is your issue.
Exactly.
It's not even that you're a father to a girl and she is not safe, but you may be a father to a boy and he cannot be a perpetrator.
He cannot be a perpetrator, and he cannot be a victim
Absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely.
You know?
So it is in that context where we want to make sure that the shift that you see starts in the home, because it is intimate partner violence. And it's something that happens when you least expect it, but women are subjugated to it and they are affected disproportionately by it. So we want to actually have an approach that looks at, yes, the men, and say prevention starts with you. And we do see the president is consistently speaking that narrative now. He did say, we are moving into a space where if you are found to have been a perpetrator of gender-based violence, you will get no bail until your court date.
I'm glad you, because that was going to be my next question, to say, we see these things happening. These men, they go to court or they go to jail or wherever, and some of them are given bails. Mm-hmm. And they come back. And they do it even double, because now
you took me to jail.
Exactly. You took me to jail. You've embarrassed me. You've stripped me out of my dignity, as if there's dignity in a man hitting a woman.
Yep. So the call to corporate South Africa and private sector is actually to move and start looking at how to impact and support any woman that's affected by gender-based violence, whether they are at home or at work. It's now the world of work. So if I look at COVID and its impact and saying, how do we build back better going forward post-COVID? Not only do we need to relook at our policies and frameworks, but we actually need to move from policy into action and support women who are experiencing violence in the home, because they're working from home as they experience from at work. So we have started an initiative that we call the Private Sector Coalition, where we recognize that 16 million people in South Africa are employed and are considered workers, and we want private sector companies to take arms and hold hands and start looking at how to create safe spaces, whether you're at home or you're at work, and make sure that women are safe wherever they are.
You've done so much. What would you like to see when you leave this position, and what do you think you want us to say, this was Sazini's legacy as we move forward?
Yes, I think I have a public scorecard. The first is, I want to reduce the 1 in 3. I don't want to have that statistic. The second is, we cannot have this become an intergenerational issue and watch the next generation continue the cycle. So there's a strong focus in young people and schools, and say we have shifted, and actually it is not considered. And third is that we respect and go back to our values and change the way we view gender-based violence, and actually not have gender-based violence as an issue. So if I can say, what are the 3 things? Those would be the 3 things that I would count as my contribution.
Sometimes women will say, ngizakshayela nabaningi. Kitla ushapela babangata. We need to then try and correct those things.
Yes.
Because violence is not good, whether it comes from a male,
yes,
or it comes from a woman, or from a young boy, or it's directed to an old woman or a child. So when I would urge you, policymakers and the people in those places, that when we do all these things, we need to be very, very inclusive.
Absolutely.
We need to talk about these things in all its forms, to say this is not correct. Whether it's a man beating a woman or a woman beating a woman, a woman, it is not correct. Yeah. This should not be allowed, and this should not be tolerated in our society.
Absolutely.
As we wrap up, what do you want to say to our Woman Radio people?
I want to say, let's continue propping each other up. I have a mantra, my personal mantra. A candle loses nothing from lighting another candle. May we see more of that.
She says, may we see more of that. So, Sazini, is an executive, a level in multinational, and she also has her expertise lie in the development and execution of strategic plans linked to creating shared values. Shared values is something that we also have to talk about. Sazini, thank you very much for your time. I wish you the very, very best and continue doing all the good work that you do. Know that you've got supporters in us and you've got people who look up to you because you are a light. And that's why I just love when you say the light doesn't lose, and the candle doesn't lose anything by lighting another candle. That's exactly what you've just done to us and for some of the listeners. Congratulations for the good work that you do. We wish you the very best. Please do acknowledge us when you see us next time when you are a minister, and we will call on you on Woman Radio.
You hold me to account.
We will absolutely call on you and we'll hold you to account. But above all, you will have support
Thank
from
you.
us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.